Tomorrow, the LBJ Presidential Library in Austin, along with the Miller Center of Public Affairs, will launch a new website featuring over 100 phone conversations from the Johnson presidency. The new site, lbjtapes.org, marks the 50th anniversary of the LBJ Presidential Library. Many of the conversations are still so relevant to the issues we face today. In one recording from January 65, now this is hard to hear, but we've highlighted the words, President Johnson spoke to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. about voting rights.
And it's very interesting, Mr. President, to notice that the only state that you didn't carry in the South, the balance of the states, have less than 48% of the Negroes registered to vote. Very interesting to notice that. I think the professor at the University of Texas, in a recent article, brought this out very clearly. So it demonstrates that it's so important to get Negroes registered to vote in large numbers in the South, and it will be this coalition of the Negro vote and the moderate white vote that will really make the new South.
That's exactly right. I think it's very important that we not just say that we're doing this and we not do it just because it's Negroes and whites, but we take the position that every person born in this country, when he reaches a certain age, that he have a right to vote.
Back with us tonight, the celebrated author, presidential historian Michael Beschloss, whose latest work is Presidents of War. But even more relevant to our discussion tonight, two more of his seminal books, Taking Charge, The Johnson White House Tapes, 1963 to 64, and Reaching for Glory, Lyndon Johnson's Secret White House Tapes, 64 to 65. And we've always recommended people buy these books, the audio version, so you can hear Michael's curated narration and hear the actual Johnson tapes that go with them. If you'll forgive a further personal note, Michael and I both learned as adults that we had each written letters to President Johnson as very precocious young kids did in the early 60s. And because that interest never waned, we have both of us listened to the hundreds of hours of all of his existing recorded phone conversations. And Michael, let's start there. The courageous decision to make these public. As you say in your book, it was done by the Harry Middleton, who was head of the library. Probably would have embarrassed Johnson a little bit, given the content of some of them. But as you point out, the biggest problem would have been that he was forgotten by history.
That's absolutely right. And, you know, you and I have talked about this so many times, the fact that Johnson would be horrified, for instance, to hear of the tape where he's calling up the head of the Hated Argus Slacks Company and telling him, you know, giving him extremely precise instructions on how to make some custom-made slacks so that Johnson will feel more comfortable. Johnson would have thought that wasn't presidential. But you listen to these tapes, you find out what the guy was like. For instance, as you have said, you hear gun smoke in the background. You hear Johnson belching. You hear all sorts of other things, and it takes you into the room in a way that nothing else could. And that tape you just played of LBJ and Martin Luther King, if you and I were talking as we might have, you know, before these tapes were opened in the 1990s at the recommendation of Lady Bird Johnson, we might have said, gee, wouldn't it be amazing to listen to LBJ and Private plotting with Martin Luther King how to get a civil rights bill and a voting rights bill, you know, how it really happened rather than how it appeared in public. Thanks to these tapes, we've got that kind of stuff. And after Richard Nixon, no president ever kept these kinds of tapes again.
And fast forward to today, to the Democratic coalition in the South that flipped control of the Senate before our very eyes. The tapes also contain, to coin a phrase, scenes from a marriage. I'm going to play one where Johnson is on the phone with his wife, First Lady Lady Bird Johnson, following a television appearance by the president.
I thought that you looked strong, firm, and like a reliable guy. Your looks were splendid. The close-ups were much better than the distance ones.
Well, you can't get them to do it
Well, I would say this, there were more close-ups than there were distance ones. During the statement, you were a little breathless, and there was too much looking down, and I think it was a little too fast.
Sometimes you get a lot of detail in these, Michael, and sometimes, as we say, it is a glimpse inside this marriage.
Yeah, and how often do you get to understand a president's marriage years later, or his religious views? Two of the toughest things to find out about any human being from the outside. And the other thing is that you listen to these tapes. I'm not trained in psychiatry, but Johnson had huge emotional complexities. I don't have the standing to say that he was bipolar, but you hear him on these tapes. He gets too excited when things go badly. He gets too depressed when things make him sad. And the one person who could pull him out of these depressions, which are really climbing into the bed and pulling the blanket over his head and refusing to get out, and calming him down when he got too angry or excited, was Lady Bird Johnson. I think one day we should build a statue to her and say Lyndon Johnson would not have been able to function without Lady Bird Johnson there as his wife.
The phrase she used to describe the Depression was the Great Despond, which always struck me. Michael, final question. How is it that we get to hear this? I know Nixon inherited, to his great loss ultimately, the taping system from Johnson, but has it lived on? To the best of your knowledge, have modern era presidents done this same thing that we're going to find out about 50 years from now?
No, I don't think so, because when Nixon's tapes were revealed in the summer of 1973, the public reaction was so negative. How could Nixon have taped people without their knowledge? That later presidents are almost honor bound to make it clear that they don't make secret tapes of people who call them or come to visit them. When these Johnson tapes came out in the mid-90s, I was sitting with Bill Clinton, who was president at the time, and I said, I assume you don't keep tapes like that yourself. And he looked at me and he said, are you kidding? I mean, any president who did that nowadays would be criticized, but this is an absolute treasure trove. And to listen to the tapes, not only of LBJ, but JFK and Richard Nixon, that period, one of the most tumultuous periods in American history, it's like living through it at these three presidents' elbows, an experience that we could have gotten in no other way.